This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Rizdal. We got the September jobs report last Friday, as you know, because you were listening. And in it, we learned the overall unemployment rate in this economy has fallen to 7.9%. For black women, though, the jobless rate is more than 11%. That's on top of a race and gender wage gap, which has black women earning 62 cents on the dollar that white men earned last year. There's also a gap in the matrimony economy, where historically black women are less likely to be married than women in other groups. Emory University professor Diane Stewart has a new book out on that topic. It's called Black Women, Black Love. Professor Stewart, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Kai.
I want to get into the economics of what you have written in this book, because we've been doing a lot of work on that lately about black women and economic empowerment in this economy. But I want to talk about one of the through lines of what you write about, which is that it's a civil rights issue. This issue of black women and their ability or tendency to marry is what you call the least covered or least understood civil rights issue in America.
Yes, I do. When we really think through some of the most recent struggles for marriage, for example, LGBTQ rights, that struggle reminds us how much of a civil right marriage is. And so when we look at also the Supreme Court justices who've ruled since 1888 on over a dozen cases that affirm marriage as a civil right, we can begin to look at black women's low marriage rates in a different way than we normally look at them. We often tend to treat the problem in the public eye as a personal problem. But when we look at the numbers nationally, we have to then look at this as a civil rights issue. That's the way I see it.
Okay, so let's take a turn to the marketplace of this now, because you are not at all sure. In fact, you kind of are sure, and you say this in the book. You don't believe that increasing the rate at which black women in this economy marry would improve their economic standing and reduce economic inequality.
Well, there are studies that show that when tax laws burden families, American families, married couples in particular, they burden black married couples more. There are laws that show, there are studies that show that black marriage doesn't so much increase wealth. It's more so that we have to build wealth to increase black marriage, if that makes sense. It's not so much that getting married as a black person builds so much wealth. Certainly it probably aids people in their individual struggles and goals on a daily basis, but it's not so much that builds wealth as much as we need to build wealth so that black women will marry more.
Which is especially problematical because you point out elsewhere in this book that inherited wealthlessness of black families and black women and black men individually is a huge issue in this.
That's right. That's something that totally shocked me. I had no idea that I would leave the research feeling that building wealth was the most important strategy that we need to pursue to overcome this problem. But I'm absolutely convinced of that now. I mean, we already know that today a lot of young people don't get married across racial boundaries because of a lack of wealth. When we look at the fact that most black families have a dime for every dollar of wealth a white family has, or when we look at the fact that white single family homes are more wealthy than black coupled homes, we can understand how that would be a serious deterrent for black people.
Let me get you then on the way out here, Professor, to the title of your book. It's Black Women, Black Love, and I want to flip that a little bit. We've been hearing a lot about black capitalism on the program the past number of months. And I've been asking people what they think the future of black capitalism is, and they're reasonably hopeful. And I wonder what you think of the future of black love, given the economic situation that we've just described.
I feel more hopeful than I ever have, but I also fear that we often take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or even 3 steps back. And so I think the best way to see our hopes addressed is for Black people and other people who care about Black women and Black families in America to place this issue on the civil rights agenda, which we have never done in the past.
It's a book called Black Women, Black Love from Diane Stewart. She's a professor of religion and African American studies at Emory University. Professor, thanks for your time, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Thank you.